Hi, my name is Lindy Cowling. Welcome to this channel. My website is www.lindycowling.co.uk. My email is info@lindycowling.co.uk. And the title of this short video today is Cosmic Caretakers or Cosmic Caretaking. So in the course of my life, I have come across many people, and indeed myself, that have been or are involved in cosmic caretaking. So what is cosmic caretaking? Another word for cosmic caretaking could even be gatekeepers. So I'm going to give you my interpretation of this based on personal, direct experience. This is an experiential and humanitarian channel that's a template into the heart, which means it's all based on experience. And so my take and my perception of it based on experience. So my starting point would be long before I even officially worked in energy work, which has been 17 years now. My own mother, who was a healer and medium clairvoyant in her own right, and her mother before her, my grandmother, who was very well known across the United States and across Britain as a healer and a medium clairvoyant in her own right. The generations before me were in essence acting in a caretaking or gatekeeper capacity. So what do I mean by that? I mean that they were drawn specifically to be at particular places at particular times. My own mother's words used to be, quote, to clean up the energy line, unquote. So she would be drawn to specific places at specific times on the, let me call it the old grid. The reason I'm calling it the old grid now is because there is another grid in place, and people are, when they are ready, accessing that level of consciousness now, which is online, and everything has shunted. The earth has shunted. So some places that were online are no longer online, and new places and new countries and new places in countries and new pockets in countries are coming online. So in the generations before me, they were in essence being drawn to go to certain places. Their words for it were clean up the energy, but it was also more involved than that. It was also opening portals, closing portals between dimensions. They might have different words for it, but that's what they were doing. And then when it came down to me, it was more subtle and less direct. So you can be a cosmic gatekeeper or a cosmic gate caretaker in a different way. So some people are actually drawn to visit places or spend time in specific countries or specific places and to just clean up the energy or move the energy or open portals or close portals, move energy through. And others are drawn in a capacity to actually go live in these places. So they pack everything up and go live there. And they spend so long there, and then they move on to somewhere else. They spend so long there and they move to somewhere else. With me, I didn't even realize I was acting in a caretaking capacity till much later in my life. And for me, it was more subtle. So I wasn't drawn directly to go to places to clean up the energy. I seemed to be in the right place at the right time. And it seemed to be my role was and has been more as a conduit, so like a transformer. So there are certain people that act as conduits or transformers. I say certain people. Everybody has the capacity to do that, but I feel some just sign up for it, you know, on a soul level and just say, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And they are placed in specific points of the earth, specific communities, specific countries, towns, villages, not necessarily at specific well-known, let's call them spiritual sites, because some of those sites are now offline. They're not on the new grid. Some are, some aren't. So some people that visit those places are visiting really an imprint of what was there before, and not accessing it in another way. But again, it depends on what perception and consciousness you're coming from. So for me, it was and has been more subtle. So I would be, although hard work in a way, because I was drawn to keep moving to different places, moving to different areas of the country and keep moving. A couple of those moves took me onto a main energy line, actually a tribute. I call it a tributary, like a river, and then little veins, little veins coming off it. It was on the main Michael and Mary line, energy line, ley line in the United Kingdom, but a little branch off it. So my words for it is like that's like a main artery, and then there are little veins or little capillaries coming off it, and I was on one of those little capillaries. A very powerful one, actually. I was drawn to live in a 300-year-old farmhouse in Wiltshire, which is the main crop circle county in the world. So I was involved there because I was on that main line, all very elemental energy. It was also on that line that I connected with Twin Flame Union and went through all of that on that same line. I was on the line for a bit, then I came off the line for a bit, a few years. Then I came full circle back onto the line again. So I was living on the line, came off the line by a few miles, and then came back into Twin Flame Union by working on that line in a centre that was on that line at that time. I say at that time, that centre is no longer there on that line. So that was obviously a big transformative line to be on. So for me, it's come in the form of moving to certain places or being with people that are used to working that energy that way, and then going for a short break, for example, down somewhere. Like, I'll give you an example, like 18 months ago, going down to somewhere in Cornwall in the United Kingdom. I had a feeling there was going to be some energy work, but that was all opening up a portal. It was all Christ level consciousness. It was all moving souls that were in an alternate dimension, or you could, another word for it would be souls that were trapped, that had died, but that were still in existence in this dimension, and moving them through. That was fascinating because it wasn't planned, it was spontaneous. The person that was with me was part of that as well. We were assisting each other to do that. A friend of mine who works energy, who holds space. And that was really interesting because being used as a conduit, when I say being used, and we're fully participating in that via Christ level consciousness level, and moving those souls through. There were multiple representations of the particular soul's faith. So let me give you an example, because at first I thought, this doesn't make sense. Why is like images of Jeshua rocking up? Why is images of Divine Mother rocking up? Why is images of Buddha rocking up? You know, etc., etc., etc. While we were doing that, and then I realized that if you're a soul that died, that had a certain belief system or a certain faith, if you saw an image that conflicted with that faith, that wanted to help you move over to your next level of consciousness, in other words, let's call it heaven, you won't go if you don't recognize that or believe in that. So the different representations of different religions and faiths rocked up in image and in energy. I was going to say in image. I feel some of them were in image, almost like a holographic thing, so that the souls knew where to go. But there were one or two there that was present in energy, which was very moving, all from the heart, you know, tears rolling down my friend's face and my face while we were doing that work, because it was just, you know, this outpouring of love from us to us. And so that wasn't just a holographic experience, that bit. That was definitely on a different kind of level, heart level there. It was all heart level, but we experienced it directly there as well. So that would be another example of cosmic caretaking and gatekeeping. Opening doorways, closing doorways, getting energy rebooted online in specific places, closing places is an extraordinary thing. When you work in that way, there are so many multiple representations of what you've done, so much synchronicity, and so many I said that, and I don't know if you saw that here. It's all this like light flashing around in here when I just said that. That's why I look that way. I don't know if you caught that on camera. There are so many multiple validations of that when you're working that way. The whole day and the days that follow that you're working that way, so much synchronicity, so many signs that it just makes you laugh, really. It's just crazy. So cosmic caretaking falls into, I'm going to go into another category of it in a minute. It can be that you are drawn to be in certain places at certain times. You didn't even know why you were drawn there, but you're just drawn there. And you may think you're going there for a vacation, or you may think you're going there to visit someone. And it turns out to be so much more than that. Not what you expected at all. So in other words, you're acting as a conduit, or I call it a kingpin on that, in that space, on that part of the grid. You could be involved on another level where you are, if you are so drawn and it's in the soul's plan and it's in the blood, you might be drawn to move to specific places, a country that you've never visited before, a part of the country you've never been to before. And sometimes you go there and you think, oh, this is going to be really good for me. And it may be good for you in a way that absolutely sucks. So you go there and it wasn't for the reason you thought. It was that bigger picture thing. And actually for you, it's been a bit quite hard work, and then you get moved on to somewhere else, or you have a plan to move somewhere. You get there and you're only there 5 minutes, and then you've got to move again. This is a pattern that has followed me throughout my life. Yes, it is true. I am a fifth Romany gypsy. That is in the blood. That is legit. That is not a woo-woo claim there. It was always talked about on my father's side of the family that we had gypsy blood, and we did not. I say gypsy, Romany, so Romany traveller blood. And we didn't take any notice of it until my father died. And then I believe it was my sister going through his things. It turned out to be legit anyway. So it works out that in my generation, I'm about a fifth Romany traveller myself on one side, and then on the other side of my family, my nan, who is also passed over, was in her own right an extremely well-known healer and medium clairvoyant, you know, on television, and you know, with her own therapy centres under her own name, and the first healer in the world to be tested at UCLA and Stanford, to alter the molecular structure of water under test conditions, and the first healer in the world to be tested by Dr. Maxwell Cade with the mind mirror, which showed scientifically that how a healer works, altering the brain waves of the client or the patient they're working with so they come into a harmonic resonance, so that healing can take place. But in other words, the healers and the patients' brainwaves match identically within a few minutes. So you can work as a cosmic caretaker in many ways. It can be direct, it can be moving there, it can be spending time somewhere. Things are changing. I mean, a lot of the groundwork, shall we say, has been being done over a number of years. This is not a new thing. This has been going on a very long time, which is why I'm tracking back to the generations here. When I'm explaining it, I'm tracking back to the generations, explaining it's not a new thing. Of course, ascension is a relatively new thing, but that's what a lot of this has been in preparation for, and in preparation for getting online with a new grid. I call them grids. Excuse me, the throat chakra's gone. I call them grids. I prefer to call them that way rather than to refer to the matrix. That's just a personal thing. For me, the matrix conjures up negative connotations for me, so I prefer not to refer to it in that way. So because we're online with a new grid now, a new grid of consciousness that we can tap into and use for the benefit of all, as well as our own benefits for the benefit of all. It's a service orientated grid. Excuse me, my throat chakra is going crazy. Sometimes when I'm working, especially working in this way, it's a bit better. Throat chakra just goes berserk. Sometimes if I'm working on a particular level, when I'm working with spiritual energy, or actually working direct with spirit, because I do have the ability to directly channel from source, be a direct channel for spirit. I've had that ability all my life, really, but I've been really working that ability for a long time, 17 years. I don't really work that way anymore. I can do it, but I don't. I prefer to come straight from my heart, straight from source, the source within, rather than tapping up in outside. But occasionally I have to adjust frequency, and it goes that way. In the early days, they used to tinker around with my voice box so that I could work the way I needed to work. So let's calm down a bit now. I've just said, I'm just talking to higher self, really. It's not going too woo-woo here. And to my guide team, can you stop affecting my throat so much, please? So cosmic caretaking, there's a number of levels to it. Moving there, spending time there, cleaning up the energy there, opening portals, closing portals. You could have to spend a considerable time living somewhere, maybe even a chunk of lifetime living there, where in essence, I could say to you, you're being used. That sounds brutal. As an act of service, you are acting as a conduit, like a transformer, like a transmitter, really, holding space, anchoring that energy, anchoring that grid in place. I know plenty of people that are in that position that have, in a way, signed up for that. And others, it's different. They travel from place to place temporarily, then they move to another place again. There's also another element to this as well, that you can, and again, a friend of mine is in this position with her family acting as cosmic caretakers in a particular country, in Australia actually, on particular land. And we've done some work on this as well, because it may be that their time as cosmic caretakers on that particular land, in that particular place, may be coming to a close. I say maybe because it hangs in the balance. It could go either way. And that's an example of people that have been anchoring and holding particular energy, or really caretakers of that land for so long. And then now we've come online to this new grid. In a way, it's nothing personal, but different people will be called to be at different places at different times. So someone that may have been living somewhere for years almost might get moved to one side like a chess piece. So someone else comes in that can hold that frequency and vibration in a different capacity, comes in instead. It's all service orientated. It's for the greater good and the greater whole. So it's nothing personal from that point of view. It's people being placed in the right time at the right place, right time. Of course, they have their own, I was going to say they have their own collaboration in that, but sometimes people are doing that, they're not even quite aware that they're doing it. I wasn't for ages aware that that's what was happening until I became more fully conscious, and then I became aware of it. And now I've got to the stage where wherever I go now, I almost know there's a bigger picture to it now. It's like I don't really rock up anywhere randomly anymore. There's always something you couldn't even make up that comes out of it. And it's like, well, that makes sense now. I can't tell you, I mean, it makes me laugh how many of my friends that are working energy, that are in the heart, that the same thing happens to them. It's quite commonplace. There'll be, the road will be blocked off and they'll have to go through somewhere that is all about healing that area, or healing that county, or healing the history within them, or healing the history within one of us. And they'll be held in a traffic jam in that county for hours, for example, till this bit is done, and then they'll then be allowed to move, out of there. It's quite funny. I mean, it's frustrating again when you're in a traffic jam, isn't it? You think, what the... but there's this funny bigger picture to it. So it's, as you become more fully conscious, you'll be aware of this. And like we say, everything is energy, everything is vibration. And so in some ways, there's no coincidence to where you're drawn, why you're drawn there, who you're drawn there with. And if you are fully conscious and happy to actively participate in that, you're kind of, well, I was going to say the word used again. It's a mutual dance, really. You act as a conduit to stabilize that energy, to balance that energy, to move that energy through, to bring that energy online, to move energy over, to clear energy up. All of these different things. Are there some people that are doing that without being aware of doing it, or are they plonked in areas, so to speak, without even being aware that they're doing it? Yeah, there are. I've met plenty of them that didn't realise that's what the bigger picture was. And then when they did realise, everything made sense. It's like, oh, yeah, all the dots lined up, so to speak. So yeah, I thought it was worth bringing out this one. So I hope you found that interesting. I may get a chance to bring one more video out probably next week, because then I'm on vacation for 2 weeks. I'll be in America for 2 weeks, so I won't get much chance, and it's all coming round very, very quickly. After that, you won't see me on camera probably till about mid-June, so I'll be off camera for 3 or 4 weeks. So you will not see me. Elvis has left the building. No, I'm not comparing myself to Elvis. I don't have any jumpsuits, although I do have the waistline at the moment. Yeah, so I won't be on camera for 3 or 4 weeks. There goes the throat again. Perhaps I'm going to break into an Elvis impersonation. So I've got in mind another video to bring out. I go by what is strongest in me, what I'm most compelled to bring out at that time. I could be, I've said this many times before, I could spend all day, every day in front of this camera. Not because I have a yearning, burning urge to be in front of the camera. In fact, quite the opposite sometimes. It's like, you know, I don't really want to put myself in front of the camera here. What brings me onto camera is the drive, really, to be sharing. It's something that I love to do, and my voice is going again. Something that I love to do, something that I really enjoy, something that I do naturally, and something that other people really get so much from and enjoy. But there just aren't enough physical hours in the day. And this is something that I do completely freely, so it takes up a lot of my time. It's also, I'm imparting energy every time I do this. So, but I could, it's not that I'm short of things to say. I'm never short of things to say. It's a constant supply of coming from the heart and source, which does not run dry. It's not like, unlike my throat, it's not like a riverbed that runs dry. There's a constant amount of wisdom, I guess. I don't mean that in a big-headed way, but it's just being tapped into source. I'm sure some of you find the same thing. So I could talk night and day. There's no problem with that. It's just I don't have the time to do it, which is why I'm picking and choosing what I come on here with, when and how. So hope you found that interesting. And if you are a cosmic gatekeeper or a cosmic caretaker, one and the same or just slight differences, well done you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for resonating. And I will love you and leave you. Bye.